When I first started lifting as a teenager, I asked the biggest guys in my gym for advice. Everyone had different tips, but they all agreed on one thing: control the weight. Focus on time under tension. And for years, that's exactly what I did, counting 1, 2, 3 in my head every time I lowered the weight. The advice to focus on time under tension when building muscle used to be everywhere. And to this day, time under tension is still being pushed by many influencers. So, my colleagues and I, alongside the GOAT of lifting science, Professor Brad Schoenfeld, decided to do our own review study on tempo. We gathered every study on tempo and hypertrophy, specifically those that manipulated lifting or lowering speed while keeping everything else equal. In doing this, we wanted to find out, how much should you really control the lowering phase? And what about the lifting phase? Should you be explosive? This wasn't one study. We included 14 studies in total. And the result was clear. Tempo barely affected muscle growth. In fact, if anything, faster reps looked slightly better for hypertrophy, which honestly shocked us. Ironically enough, that would mean that just horse-cocking the weights, like Rick the Stick Bugenhagen recommends, lifting really heavy loads explosively, might actually be #science-based and optimal. Now, it's worth stressing, these effects were tiny, if they exist at all, but they still push back against the old idea that controlling the weight is key for muscle growth. When we got these results back, we were surprised. But believe it or not, this isn't a new finding in the research. A review paper we published several years ago looking at the research also found the evidence wasn't particularly compelling to suggest we should be controlling the eccentric particularly. Likewise, a previous systematic review on time under tension also found that tempo basically didn't matter, and that sets as short as 20 seconds and as long as 70 seconds led to similar muscle hypertrophy, provided sets were actually taken to failure. And that seems to be the key, training to failure, or at least very close. Now, in any talk about time under tension, remember, your reps naturally slow down as you're near failure. So even if you try to move fast, your last few reps before failure might still take 2 to 8 seconds. But let's set that aside for now. Most lifters know this trade-off. The more you control the weight, the less you can lift. To hit failure, you could slow down and use a lighter weight. Or you could use the same weight, skip the slow tempo, and crank out more reps before reaching failure. Or you could just go heavier and hit failure in just 5 to 8 fast reps. Either way, the outcome's the same. You reach failure. But here's the catch. If you keep reps the same, focusing on TUT forces you to use lighter weights just so you can slow them down. A normal 8 to 12 rep set usually takes 20 to 30 seconds or so, but with a slow tempo, it can drag out to nearly 60. The issue is, dragging sets out this long can make it harder to truly hit failure. And this isn't just my opinion, the research backs it up. A few years ago, we published a meta-analysis of 13 studies on how accurately lifters judge how close they are to failure. Here's what we discovered. With sets under 12 reps, lifters were pretty accurate, usually off by less than 1 rep. And that makes sense. 5 to 12 reps are heavy and hard, but you're not gasping for air, and the discomfort in the muscle is still manageable. So, if you think you can do 10 reps, chances are you actually had 11. That small difference doesn't really matter. Research on failure shows the difference between true failure and leaving 1 rep in the tank is tiny. But once reps climb past 12, your accuracy drops off fast. And that makes sense. Think about it. Higher reps burn, they're uncomfortable, and they trick you into thinking you're done. Does that sound familiar? Yep, that's exactly what happens when you obsess over time under tension. The problem? It feels harder. It's less effective at reaching failure, and it still doesn't build more muscle. But I know some of you won't be convinced by research alone. You'll point out that nearly every pro bodybuilder swore by time under tension. And to you, that's proof enough. But here's the catch. Those big guys tell me to slow down, they grew big despite focusing on time under tension. Not because of it. Bodybuilders who swear by TUT are jacked because they nail the fundamentals. They train brutally hard with high volumes for decades. Speaking of science-based and optimal, creatine monohydrate. It's one of the very few supplements with decades of research showing it actually works. It's safe, it's cheap, and it's effective for strength and hypertrophy. That's why I partnered with Tasty Gains for this video, who make creatine gummies that don't just work, they actually taste good. No gritty powder, no chalky shakes, just gummies you'll actually look forward to eating. They also do regular third-party testing in the USA. Here are their latest results. If you want to support the channel and get your creatine in the most enjoyable way possible, check out Tasty Gains. Links in the description. Still, just because TUT isn't better and may even stunt growth by making failure harder, doesn't mean it's never useful. Sometimes TUT is useful. It helps you get more out of lighter weights. Quick disclaimer, this isn't medical advice. Go see a physio if you're injured. But here's what I've learned coaching hundreds of lifters. First, managing aches, pains, or injuries. When injured, as a lifter, the goal is simple. Keep gaining muscle without making the pain worse. Usually, rehab means reducing the load on the joint while still training it. Doing more reps or slowing tempo both reduce the weight you can use while still keeping the stimulus around. Remember, as long as you train to failure, sets lasting 20 to 70 seconds, or anywhere from 5 to 50 reps, can all build maximum muscle. Of course, slowing tempo down makes failure harder to reach, but slower tempos also reduce load and lower the peak forces on your joints. Rapidly accelerating or decelerating the weight requires greater force output. Slowing things down means no rapid starts and stops, and the force on your joints drops, even at the same weight. One downside, the burn and discomfort of slow tempo can blend with your injury pain, making it harder to push for a good stimulus. Another possible benefit, injury prevention and long-term joint health. Some argue that bodybuilding pros use TUT not to build more muscle, but to avoid injuries, short and long-term. There may be truth to that, and it could explain why many pros slow their reps down. On the flip side though, the body does tend to adapt pretty fast, and lifting forces are actually low compared to most sports. So lifters who move explosively might just adapt, and ultimately not face higher injury risk at all. Unfortunately, almost no research exists on this. This is absence of evidence, not evidence of absence. The closest evidence we have compares injury rates. Bodybuilders who slow tempo down versus strength athletes who lift more explosively. Those studies show strength athletes get injured more often. But strength athletes also lift heavier and repeat only a few movements, and there are many other big confounders involved. So we still can't say for sure that increasing timer retention would actually reduce injury risk. Controlled tempos also help if you're learning a new lift. Slowing down gives you more time to notice and fix mistakes. The faster you lift, the less time you have to think about technique mid-rep. If you lose hip and spine position off the floor in the deadlift, try slowing the lift down. That extra time lets you consciously fix your position. Anecdotally, timer retention may also help with mind-muscle connection. A 2018 study by Schoenfeld and colleagues compared focusing on the mind-muscle connection versus just moving the weight for biceps and for the quads. Both groups grew the quads equally, but the mind-muscle connection group saw more bicep growth. Unfortunately, that's the only study we have on the mind-muscle connection so far. So while it's interesting, I don't think increasing timer retention to chase the mind-muscle connection makes sense just yet. Finally, you might just prefer slower tempos. Increasing timer retention probably won't boost your gains, and explosive lifting may be slightly better, but focusing on timer retention also won't ruin your progress. Lifting is full of empty platitudes that holds lifters back. Phrases repeated so often that they sound true when they're not. Control the weight. Focus on timer retention. Both sound wise, but the research says timer retention is dead. That's the video. Before my final recommendations, a quick shout out to my training app, MyoAdapt. MyoAdapt is your smart coach in your pocket. It builds science-based routines tailored to your schedule and goals. It helps you bring up weak points in the most time-efficient, science-based way possible. MyoAdapt is on both the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Use code WOLF for a free 2-week trial so you can test it before committing. Or, if you prefer one-to-one coaching, book a free call with me instead. The link's in the description. And if you want the clothes I wear in these videos, head to rascalapparel.com. Use code WOLF at checkout for 10% off and to support me. My recommendation for tempo: lift explosively. Our research shows tempo doesn't matter much, but faster reps might just give you a slight edge. As for timer retention, you really don't need to stress about it. If you want a guideline, just make sure your sets last at least 20 seconds and you'll be fine. Try not to drag sets past 60 seconds. You usually find it hard to reach failure that way, but don't overthink it. The obsession with timer retention is mostly a gimmick. Have a great week, and I'll see you in that next one.